Hey everybody, Daunter here. Today, it's going to be yet another freeform video. Awesome. um, this is my first video after reaching the incredible goal of 600 subscribers. Looks like we're at 603 now, which is even crazier, not going to lie. Today, we're going to be talking about the very real worry that we might not get art rares next era. And if we don't, there's going to be some serious ramifications with that decision. Now, obviously, most people know that we're in the Scarlet and Violet era, and the whole point of the Scarlet and Violet era are the art rares and the special art rares in every single set. At least there's 13 minimum per set. So that's cool. Art rares are a pivotal part of the Scarlet and Violet era. I think that art rares are fantastic looking cards. 99% of the time, you'd rather have an art rare over a regular printing of a card, because it usually just has so much more personality. It's why they brought the art rares into Pokemon Pocket. If there weren't art rares in Pokemon Pocket, I'm sure people probably wouldn't, care about Pokemon Pocket as much. And we've reached the point where the standard is set. There will always be art rares in the Scarlet and Violet era, which is one reason why I personally feel like a set like Prismatic Evolutions kind of failed. I feel like the sentiment is shared between a lot of different people that Prismatic Evolutions would have been so much better off with art rares, right? Because they're just such a pivotal part of the Scarlet and Violet era. So we're already starting to see that, in one set, one single set, if there's no art rares, people are not going to be happy. And I wasn't happy either, right? I would have way rather there be art rares in Prismatic Evolutions. Obviously other people also would have preferred if it was like that. And like I said, the standard is set. We're at the point where people are associating Pokemon cards with art rares. People are specifically looking for art rares for their completions. They're specifically looking for art rares for their set completions. The whole what everybody gets excited for when a new set is revealed are those art rares. I think they're a pretty big deal when it comes to the make of a set, and whether it's going to be good or not. So what happens when in Gen 10, what happens in Gen 10? Are there going to be art rares? Are there not going to be art rares? I see two outcomes, obviously. There's one outcome where there are art rares, and there's one outcome where there are no art rares. And I think the outcome with no art rares would be detrimental. I think that most people would be pretty upset if art rares didn't see a return in the next generation or the next era in some sense, right? Just because they're so heavily associated with Pokemon cards now. Which is this, that's the reason that I say that. I think that they're just such a big part of the way that the Pokemon TCG is now. Same thing with all arts, right? You can look at all arts, from the Sun and Moon era, people love those cards, and people didn't really care about the first three sets of the Sword and Shield era, me included. But as soon as they introduced all arts and battle styles, people never looked back. You couldn't imagine the Sword and Shield era without all arts. That's the thing. Same thing with Scarlet and Violet. I'm sure you couldn't imagine the Scarlet and Violet era without their all arts or their art rares, as they are just such a huge part of the Scarlet and Violet era. There's two ways I see this going. The first one is obviously we already talked about it, is that the next generation has no art rares, which would be really bad, I think. Very detrimental, because if there's no art rares, then people aren't really going to be happy. I feel like people won't be satisfied with the next era if there are no art rares at all. I'm sure people will still be happy about the Pokemon cards coming out, but I feel like there's just going to be a big part of identity kind of missing from the Pokemon TCG, as they are just such a huge part of the Pokemon TCG's identity now, which is, a double-edged sword. Obviously, people are, going to care a lot, more if they're not in the next era, since they were such a pivotal part of this era. But also, what are they going to do to differentiate the 10th generation from this generation, right? They have to make some changes, obviously. If it's the same, then I feel like people are not going to be very happy. So it's kind of hard, right? But I feel like we cannot see art rares, gone from the next generation. I can't imagine, what that would do to, Pokemon fans in general. Especially because somebody like me, I love collecting art rares. I think they're probably my favorite parts of the sets most of the time. Getting an underappreciated Pokemon appreciated in a certain way is just very rewarding to see. So I don't really think that there's not going to be art rares in the next generation, but I'm just saying, like, since the president is set, right, there's no way we can go back from that. Like, that's it, you know. I'm really happy that we have art rares, but I know that people would not be happy if there were no art rares in the next generation. And that's kind of the basis of this video, is just like, I feel like we've gotten to a point where we're just gonna keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, where there's gonna be no point of return, and they're just gonna have to keep making new things that people like genuinely love. So they're just gonna have to be included in every era from now on, you know. Special illustration rare trainers. I had that video where I talked about like the negatives and positives of special illustration rare trainers. But I feel like people that collect trainers probably would not be happy if they didn't return in the 10th generation, right? Whether you like that or not, that's just the truth, right? I feel like 99% of the time, you know, when they make something that's generally loved, they don't just get rid of it. As soon as they introduce full arts in the black and white era, people love them. You know, people like, I think most people love full arts from the black and white era, so they kept coming back. You know, they kept coming back over and over and over again, and that's just how it is. Now we have full arts in every single set. It's just you know, an evolution of the Pokemon TCG format, right? So it's interesting, right? I'm very worried that people would not be happy if the 10th generation had no art rares in it. That's kind of just all I gotta say for this video. It's nothing crazy, but I really, really do hope that we see art rares in the next generation, because art rares are like easily the best cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. I think that's pretty easy to say, just because there's so many of them and there's so many different styles. There's so many different artists that have worked on art rares, and that's the thing is, art rares also create a wonderful opportunity for people that really didn't like get opportunities before, right? They get, you know, an opportunity to create a card that something like people will love. Even newer artists, like for example, Mekayu with like the Kangaskhan art rare or the Drampa art rare. I feel like a lot of people really like those cards. And Mekayu is an artist who debuted in the Scarlet and Violet era. I'm pretty sure in the set Temporal Forces. So, you know, people will appreciate the newer artists more if they keep art rares, which is why they can't get rid of them. I think that, you know, this era is proof that like art rares are a pretty big deal, honestly. And I feel like that's a big selling point for a set whenever it comes out, right? I feel like that's a really big reason why people buy into a set, is because of the art rare potential, or just like the art rares in general, right? I feel like people are pretty happy about the art rares in the Glory of Team Rocket. I would hope so. They're very good looking art rares. And you know, the other set for Destined Rivals, the one with Misty Psyduck, that one also has some pretty good art rares. So the set's going to be really popular, right? That's just how it is. Regardless of how the special art rares look, if you don't like them, if you do like them, the art rares are a huge selling point for a set. So we really cannot not see them. That's it. I know I said the same thing over and over again, but that's just the truth. I hope you guys have a great day, though. This is the end of the video, to be honest with you. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll catch you in the next one. And, yeah, don't not include art rares. It's too late. You guys set the president. You know, it's tough. The Pokemon TCG, you guys, you can't come back now. There's no way out of this. I hope you guys have a great day, though. Bye.